Hey, welcome. In this lecture, we are going to create the function in order to sign up users. Okay, now remember the controllers folder is where we're going to be creating some of our logic, such as function to sign up users, function to log in users, function to sign out users, and so on. Now, within the controllers folder, we can create a new file, sorry, not a new folder, but a new file, and we can call this auth underscore controller, then dot that, and control and B to make this wide. And the first step is to create a class, and also we can call this class auth controller. Okay, great. And the second step is to create a function to sign up users. And first of all, we can just go ahead and say this is going to be a type of future and also string. Now, if you don't know what future is, you can easily just search that out, or do not worry, I'm shortly going to make a video on future. Okay. And now we can call this function sign up users. Great. And now the next step is to pass the fields we want that user to have. And you can see over here, we have we want the user to have the email, we want the user to create, or we want the user to create the account based on their email, their phone name, their phone number, and their password. And also in the future, they should be able to upload an image, a profile image. Okay. And first of all, over here, we can just go ahead and specify the type of variable. It is a type of string, and we can call this email, and it is email, and string password, sorry, not password, but full name, and string phone number. Okay, we're basically converting it to a string, and string password. These are the fields we want any created user to have. Okay, seems cool. And when a user is about to create an account, there might be possible errors, right? So what we can do is we can create a variable to store that error. We can call this variable res, and it's gonna be equal to, for now, it's gonna say something, maybe some error occurred. And you can see this is a test, and it wants us to specify the type of variable. So it is a type of string. Great. And also there might be error. So what we want to do is we want to try and catch that error. Great. And I'm just gonna do this, use the try and scroll down in order to automatically get that catch. Okay. And now what we want to do is within the try, we can have a check to know if all these fields are filled in or not. To do this, we can have an if statement over here. We can then say if email dot is not empty. If it is not empty, it means it is filled in. And we can use this AND operator to check for more variables, and full name dot is not empty. And also we want to check for the phone number, and phone number dot is not empty, and password dot is not empty. If it is not empty, that is if it is filled in, then for now we want to be able to create the user, and else we want to update this res variable via to say please fields must not be empty. Empty. Great. Seems cool. Seems cool. And now what we want to do over here is if the fields are not empty, we want to create the user. And to do this, we're going to be using the Firebase Auth package. Now what we can do is we can create a variable over here, and it's going to be a type of Firebase Auth. And we can call this variable underscore auth, and it's going to be equal to Firebase Auth, Firebase Auth, Firebase Auth, and dot distance. Distance. Okay, great. And it's going to take some time to create that user. So what we can do is over here we can use the async in order to use the await. Over here we can then say await underscore auth, then dot create user with email and password. We just want to be able to create the user with their email and password. And basically, the full name and the phone number is just an additional field to know more about that user. But basically, we want to be able to create that user with just their email and password. And the full name is just an additional field to know more about that user. Okay, you can see that automatically pass this email and password. And this is basically it to create a user. And also we can store it in a variable, and it expects a variable known as creed. And it wants us to specify the type of this variable. It is a type of something known as user credential. Okay, seems cool. And this is basically what we need actually to create a user. And and you see we have this error. Now what we can also do is we want to return the res after year. We can then say return, return. This should be, it's gonna break this first and return. Okay, you can see we have this catch right after this. We want to return the res. Okay, sounds good. And this is basically what we need to do to create an account, and this is going to be stored within the Firebase pods in your Firebase database. Okay, do not worry, we're going to see this in action. And this is basically what we need to do. And in the future, we're going to be able to store that user in the Firebase or in the Cloud Firebase, but sorry, Cloud Fire Store. But for now, this is basically all we need to create a user. And what we simply did, the first step was to create a class, and we call this auth controller. And the second step was to create a function called sign up users, and it is a type of future. And also it is a type of string. You can see basically all the data we have over here are all strings. Okay. And the third step was to create a variable to store the possible error. And the default error is some error occurred. And over here we have a try and a catch block to catch any error we have. And over here we're basically checking if all these fields are valid or not. And we are saying if it is valid, if all these fields are valid, then we want to be able to create the user with the email and password. And what we simply did was to have access to our Firebase auth. Remember we had earlier installed that package, and we basically created a variable called auth, and you can see it is a type of Firebase auth and then Firebase auth.instance. And we are basically using the variable over here. Auth underscore auth.create user with email and password. You can see And also, it's going to take some time to create this user. Remember, it will always take some time, and that is the period it will start loading. And so we told Flutter we are ready to wait, or we told Firebase we are ready to wait. And in order to do that, we needed to use the await over here. And in order to use the await, we have to use the async over here. And also, we store the created user in a variable called create. You can see we stored the created user in a variable called create. We stored the created user in a variable called create, and it is a type of user credentials. And hopefully you understand all this, but if you don't, please do well to let me know.